Well, Jessica, make sure the driver's license is done in person. Okay. Stop laughing.
Okay, yeah, so anyway.
Ready, set, real estate. We are talking about, this is not serious at all. We have to get serious now. If you're talking about flipping a house, Jessica, what are things you would look for if you were buying a house right now to flip?
So price obviously is huge. Having a good price so that you can make a profit is important. I think location is huge. So if it's a good price in a good neighborhood, you're more likely to get a good return. And you can get help from your realtor by checking out the comparable sales. So for example, if everything in the neighborhood is selling for $700,000, if it's somewhat updated in pretty good shape, and you found a house, say that's $450 because it's in super rough shape in a particular neighborhood, then maybe that's going to be a good buy once you put $100,000 into it or whatever, and hopefully can make a profit on it. And then need to take into consideration, of course, everything there is to take into consideration. So real estate fees when you do sell, the money it's going to cost you to get it to where it needs to be, that new flipping tax thing, capital gains, all of that stuff. So you have to make sure that you know all of the numbers. It's not just as simple as saying that's a cheap house and they're selling for this price. Yeah. And taking into consideration how long you want to hang on to the house for as well. So after you do flip it, how quickly are you planning on selling it? Is someone going to rent it for a bit? Are you going to live there for a while? You know, and also the interest rate that you got the house at is important if you have a mortgage on it as well, and all of that sort of thing. Penalties for selling it, taking those into consideration. Lots to take into consideration, really.
Yeah. For me, I would look at three things: structurally, mechanically, and the finishes. So it would be like, I want a house ideally where structurally and mechanically the house is perfect. So like everything's good to go in terms of the, like the foundation, the windows, the roof. Mechanically, the furnace is new, the AC is new, plumbing's good, electrical's good. If all that stuff's really good, because if you have to like get a new furnace, get a new air conditioning unit, and that costs you $5,000-$6,000, you're not going to like up the value of the house by 10. You're gonna like kind of just get back what you put in that situation. So a lot of the times we even lose money. So making sure structurally, mechanically the house is good. And then in terms of like the finishes, so that in this room, for instance, it'd be like this light fixture, the painting and stuff, the baseboards, like the vent covers, the flooring, and then even staging and stuff like that when you're selling the house. But in terms of like you're buying this house, I would want all of those things to be really bad, not good, because that's what'll drop the value of the house in terms of what you'll pay for it. So if structurally it's good, mechanically it's good, but it's like super outdated, it's got like 70s carpets, like pink walls, pink backsplash, wallpaper, like butterflies and stuff on the wall, and the light fixtures are like really ugly. On top of that too, it could be like super outdated, super cluttered, with items and such. It could even have a bit of a smell maybe to it, as long as it's the right smell, because there's certain smells aren't good, like mold or cigarette smoke too, if it's really bad. So making sure that is, if that all that's there, that could be a gem, as long as too, external things like land, like where the house is located. So let's say you're buying in an area where a house that's a bungalow, and this other house that you could be buying is a bungalow, does sell, like one really nice one sold for $900,000, but the one you're potentially offering on is like $585,000. Well, crap, like you can get that house up to $900,000 because one just did that like 2 months ago or something. So the ceiling, the potential is really there in that area because the land value is probably very high. It's a nice sought after area. It's kind of the whole mantra of like, buy the shittiest house in a nice neighborhood, because that neighborhood means the land value is high, but the house is crappy, hopefully not structurally, mechanically though, just with the finishes. So then you can come in, once the seller removes all their stuff out of the house anyways, the value really does go up a lot. And then you come in and like do, flooring, light fixtures and all these things, and you start upping its value, because that's when you go to sell it, what buyers will pay the most for is the way it looks, like the cosmetics essentially. It's almost as bad as that sounds, but really that's what people will pay for. Like painting and that kind of thing. So if externally like the numbers make sense on what the highest house sold for that's similar to what you're buying, say it's a bungalow, is like quite a bit more than what you're paying, and you got the room there, all those three things, structurally, mechanically, the finishes, but also too, if the value of the home you're buying is actually, maybe it's underpriced. I see it, you know, like where a house is $599 and really it probably is worth $620, even though it's that, you know, cluttered and outdated and stuff on the inside. Well, you could be saving 20 grand right there. Plus, maybe, you know, the seller's motivated. You can come in with a lower offer than usual because of certain things to look for on that, like days on market, seller's motivation, if they bought their next place, if it started overpriced and now it's down to even less than they could have got because they overpriced it in the beginning, stuff like that. Those are all signs to look for. If all that lined up perfectly, then you'd have like the ideal house to flip. Plus, one more thing would just be the market. So if the real estate market is like starting to trend upward and the appreciation's there, then you have that potential to obviously, like, you didn't want to buy a house last March and then go and sell it in 4 months. Even if it was like all those good things, you probably would maybe just break even after you pay real estate fees and lawyers and stuff. And then when you pick your mortgage, because you're only keeping the house for a short period of time because you're flipping it, say, then you would want to probably have a variable rate mortgage. Check with your mortgage broker. We're just, you know, realtors, we're not mortgage experts, but like having a fixed mortgage will mean your penalty is going to be a lot more money.
And you're locked in.
Because you're locked in for 5 years, say a 5-year term. Selling at month 4 than if you were a variable mortgage, because then it's probably just 3 months interest, and so you would save a lot of money by doing the variable mortgage when you're flipping, I would assume. So those are kind of all the things that I would look for, and probably a house too that's like in a big urban area like Peterborough, not in like Warsaw or something, because there's less buyers, then so you have more chance of getting a higher price and a bidding war maybe too when you're selling it to make more money. And
also making sure too that the finishes are right. I mean, because sometimes people will go way too above on certain things that aren't necessary.
Yeah.
So they didn't necessarily, for example, need to put in like quartz countertops or granite or something. They could have gotten away with the rest of the quality of the kitchen with like a laminate nice countertop or something. Even though I know the stone countertops are nicer, it may not be necessary for...
Because the cost is too high.
Yeah.
So like you overspend because you can't sell it for as much.
Often people will overspend, and you know, doorknobs and stuff like that. That right down to those smaller finishes makes a difference, and the baseboard height and everything, and what they're hiring out versus doing themselves. Obviously, if they're not skilled in particular things, they shouldn't be doing it, but maybe leaving the tasks that they're not skilled at for the professionals, like plumbing, electrical, whatever, and doing some of the things that they feel they're better at, like painting and whatnot themselves. Getting quotes on things too, not just going with whoever, and making sure that that they're making the most with their money, the best decisions with their money, really. Yeah, because like when you're selling a house, if you choose finishes that are too unique or specific, it can really limit and narrow down the amount of interest you have on your house when you go to sell it. So keeping it very open, that's why a lot of homes that have been like flipped are very like generic. Yeah. Even builders build houses a lot that are kind of like that because they're tailoring to a larger market than like, you don't see like really unique things that are like, but sometimes you can find that one person that kind of like really wants it and pays a lot for it, sure. But that's risky. Yeah, so like you're limiting the market. And that's another thing too is having it as, I guess, plain-ish as possible. Like, so it's, you know, but in with the trends too, right? So talking to maybe a designer about what's in and not letting your own style take over the project. Yeah. Because like a lot of the times with staging, for example, people are really into white right now for paint colors. Yeah. And some people like dark. So you wouldn't want to paint a house like a dark green if that's not in anymore. You'd want to go with the color trends and stuff with the paint and what people are liking, so you can tailor to literally everyone, not just, you know, unless you're planning on living there. But if it is a flip, you do have to see it through the eyes of other people as well. I guess another thing would be buying a property that's probably freehold versus one that's condo, just because there's more buyers for freehold. Buying a house that's detached versus one that's attached. You can still make money in those situations. It's just having a buyer pool that's larger is always better. So in an urban area, freehold, detached, so just a regular like home. A 2-story is always worth more than a bungalow if all else is equal about it. Same area, same square footage and things like that, I guess. So maybe trying to get a 2-story, and then with all those other things we said, like variable mortgage, structurally, mechanically, it's good. The finishes are really bad. And being aware of how much to put in based off trying to guess what you'll sell it for.
and then keep your costs very like under control with the contractors and quotes and picking the right finishes that are appealing to the most people, and keeping that cost down while still trying to yield a high return. That's why it's all because it's all about money in that situation, right? And that's why sometimes buying a house that's flipped, people don't really like it, because it's like, well, I know it's just like the basic IKEA whatever vanity, and it's not really that nice. It's like MDF wood. It's not like real wood cabinets. It's like standard. They didn't like splurge on making the cabinets deeper, or the level 5 quartz. They did level 1 because you can't really notice the difference visually. So things like that, I guess. People might not be drawn to, but if that's your goal as a real estate investor, is to flip, then those are kind of the things you'd want to look for.
Yeah, and also too, just knowing that the neighbors also know what went on at the house. So if you are building decks and you are doing things that require permits, that you should probably get the permits.
Oh yeah.
So that no issues come up with potential buyers and the city and the sale and the closing and that sort of thing. So yeah, neighbors know what's happening, and they will report things to the city and whatnot, and red flag properties. And of course the buyer and their realtor will see the old listing and notice, okay, well this just sold last year, and since then there's an addition or a deck or whatever added.
Yeah. And you have to tear it down. You spend more money than if you
you spend more money
from the beginning.
In the long run.
Yeah, you do.
So just doing things properly, I think, is important, not just like throwing lipstick on a pig or whatever they say. Yeah. You want to try and do the best job that you can, obviously the most cost-effective way.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. Let's go buy a house and flip it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right now? Okay.